Alright, Scouts311 back here with Warhammer Silver Tower, Warhammer Quest Silver Tower. And we're starting off round 1, or turn 1. So the way the game is played, specifically with the dice, is that you roll them. And so I was going to get into the rules, kind of get into it as we play. So each hero has four spots here, and that holds the dice that you roll. This is the mechanic I really enjoy. This game is really very cool. So for the Knight Questor, he's our first player. So he rolls his die. You only roll your die on your turn. So he rolls his dice. He gets 2 5s, a 4, and a 3. So basically you place those on your card up here. 5, 5, 4, and a 3. Well, actually, we jumped ahead. You don't do that yet. Sorry. I'm getting ahead of myself. We have to roll first the Destiny dice, which is another cool mechanic here. So if you're on the Ingress Chamber, if you roll doubles, things can happen to you. If you're on the Ingress Chamber, it doesn't happen. So basically the first turn, you don't worry about the doubles. We'll get into that, because that will come up. So what you do with these dice is you roll all 5. Now any doubles you roll get taken away, but no effects happen yet when you're on the starting tile. So your double 6s, these basically are taken away. The 5, the 3, and the 1 get placed on these blue squares. Now these are community dice that can be used by any hero as long as they're available to them. And they're on the top here, on the blue squares. Let me get a little closer to that. There we go. So, say the Knight Questor, it's his first turn. He wants to use this 5 to do an ability. He gets to take the die, and then the next highest die left gets locked, and he's not able to use that die this turn. And that stops somebody from taking all the community dice on his turn. If he wanted to, he could take this 1, because there's, it locks the next highest die. Whatever's left, he could use on his turn if he wanted to, or he can save it for another player. But that's what these dice basically represent, is community dice that can be used to fuel abilities. Now, if you roll any doubles you roll, get taken away. So, you roll 5 dice, we had double 6s, so there's only 3 left. Now, later in the game, when we're not on the start tile, these double 6s will have different things will happen based on the roll. For example, I'll come back a little bit. Because if, say, this would have happened later in the game, we got double 6s, an unexpected event happens. So we roll 2 dice, and we find the passage in the book that is the same number as the die rolls. So say we roll 34, we find number 34 in the adventure book, we read that passage, and different things will happen. So double 6s and double 1s cause events. Double 2s, 4s, 3s, and 5s cause these little familiars to come on the board. And they affect the game in different ways. They're like the Gaunt Summoners familiars. They come out, and depending if there has to be a surge. So say you roll double 3s. If any of the heroes have 2 or more skill cards, then this guy will come out on the board. If that doesn't happen, then he doesn't come out on the board. But if he does come out on the board, heroes cannot use the skill cards while he is in the same chamber, for example. And now, while these familiars in the game, you can't attack them, but you can capture them. So if you go on the same square as him, you have to roll a dice against another die. If you roll higher, you get to capture him and put him on your character card. And later in the game, you can use him for this boon. So say you would discard him when you gain a skill to draw 4 cards instead of 2. That's pretty awesome. So if you try to capture him and you fail, though, he gets angry, basically, and he leaves, and he kind of curses you or does something to you. So for example, him, if you would fail to capture him, pick one of your skill cards at random and turn it face down until your next respite. You cannot use it while it is face down. So you try to capture these guys because they'll give you some bonuses, but if you fail, something bad will happen to you, and they'll leave. So that's how these guys work. And now if you roll a full house, something happens here. Usually you can heal, but if you roll all 5 of the same dice, which obviously is insanely rare, each hero can draw a skill card, and then you have to still do the consequences of the dice. So we'll get to that if that happens, but the chances of that happening is obviously incredibly rare. And on the back of this book, it has your round sequence, your weapon ranges, basic actions, a little help, advisor health, or adversary's health, to give you a little idea of what they got going. So, to get back to the dice, we rolled double sixes. Nothing happens the first turn for the doubles, but we still take them out. So we have 3 community dice, basically destiny dice they're called, sitting there. So now every hero can do abilities based on their dice. So if the Night Quester wants to use his Warblade to attack, he has to discard one of the dice he rolled, or he can use a community die if available to do his Warblade. So he discards a die of 1 or higher to do a combat, melee. He has to roll it 3 or more hits, and he does 2 damage to an enemy. Now if he had a 6, he gets to do his Thunder Charged Strike, which is a melee 3 or higher, but he gets to do 3 damage. So that's his most powerful attack there. Now if he wants to use a 3+ die, he could put it here, for example. Everybody has different abilities here. For him, because he's kind of the tank of the group, you take a die of 3 or higher, you put it here to the end of the round, so that's the whole, all the way until the enemy's attack. His save is 3 rather than a 4. So basically he kind of defends himself up. He does a guard stance, and if he gets hit, he only needs a 3 or higher to block it instead of a 4 or higher. It gives him a better chance. And he can also challenge an enemy. But he could use a 2 or more to pick an adversary and move it 3 spaces towards him. It's like he's taunting a guy to come at him. If you spend a hero dice with 4 or more, pick 3 instead. So he can take almost like a whole room toward him to kind of keep other people safe. So he's the tank. Very cool. So we'll put these dice back. I already rolled them, even though I wasn't supposed to until I rolled the Destiny dice, but whatever. So here's our dice. So every hero has their specific abilities that they can use, but they also have 3 abilities that everybody can use that cost 1 die. The one that costs a 1. Move in costs a die of 1. And you move whatever your move rate is of the character. So he can move 3. Exploring costs a die of 1, and that is to look into the next room and see what's coming up. You have to be on the edge of the room. And then recuperate is a way you can heal. Now that one's a little different. The first time you use it in a round, you use a 1 or higher. The second time you use it, you have to use a 2 or higher. The third time, 3 or higher, and so on. So it gets a little more expensive every time you use it in a round. And that's if you have a wound that you can heal yourself. Now the wound system in this game is very cool. Basically what happens is after you're done with your turn, you discard any dice you didn't use for whatever reason. And if you would ever take a wound, when the enemy's turn, you put a wound marker on one of your slots here. So say the Night Quester took 2 wounds, and then his turn comes back around. Now instead of rolling 4 dice, he only has 2 open slots. He can only roll 2 dice for his abilities. So for example, and now he's got these dice to work with. So as you're wounded, you have less things that you can do. Now you can get your wounds healed. Like the War Priest can heal you, for example, and these get taken away, and then you can use more dice later. There's also a stun, which can happen to you, and if you're stunned, it's pretty much the same thing, but at the end of your turn, you just discard it. A wound will stay with you until it's healed. The stuns are there until the end of your turn, but they still take up spots, so you'll roll less dice, for example. So that's how the wounds work. It's pretty cool, because you get less actions if you're wounded. I like the way it works. So we're just going to re-roll these, because I forgot what I rolled with those other 2 when I kind of did that example. So we got a 6, a 5, a 4, and a 3. That's pretty good anyway. Okay, so we're going to use our 3 right off the bat. Well, maybe we'll just use a community die here just to do it. So we have a 1, a 3, and a 5. Now to explore the next room, you only need a 1. So we're going to take this 1 die. It was a 1. And we're going to use this die. So we put it away. Then we have to lock this 5, remember? The Night Quester can't use this 5 on this turn. When his turn's over, it goes back up, and the next character can use it. He can still use this 3, but the highest die left when you use 1 is locked. So he'll lock the 5. So he's going to use he used the 1 to explore. So what we do is we flip over the top card, and we know it's going to be the Whirligig Passage, because that's the way the deck was set up for this first one. So we need this tile here. And here's our tile of the Whirligig Passage. Now these tiles are really cool art. At this place, I need to say they're double-sided. So this is kind of like a little passage through this cavern with these claws, or talons or whatever. Pretty cool. But this place is very tripped out. This is the best way to put it. These tiles are really cool art and very trippy looking type of this Silver Tower. It's a very interesting place. So what we do is we place this tile down, and you can place it anywhere you want. There's no specific way. You can have this end or this end. And then you place this portal on a tile. Every tile pretty much gets a portal. So we'll place it like so. Here. Oh, my Questor just fell down. So connect it here. We'll take one of our portals. And say the card is like this. We'll put the portal right here on this space. Now things can come out of the portal. Some ability or things that happen that activate to the portal, like you move to the portal, or enemies come out from the portal, things like that. So the portal is done for. So let's see what this says. The floor moved constantly in this place, clicking and whirring as it interlocked and spun apart in ever-changing configurations of crescent tiles and seamlessly meshing cogworks. Roll on encounter table B. Okay, so this is how we find out what enemies we're going to be getting here. So when you put a new card down, you place the actual passage card like next to it. It stays on the board. So we have to roll encounter table B. At the back of the adventure book are the encounter tables. There's 4 of them. A, B, C, D. Some little stuff here are expert events. Exotic adversaries. You can buy some extra models. I don't have them. Extra enemies, or use extra enemies from the Age of Sigmar, I believe. And you can use them as exotic adversaries, and they have their stats in the back of this book. They don't come in this game, but there's something you can purchase extra. So encounter table B is this one here. You roll a d6. So we're going to roll a d6, and we get a 2. So in this first passage, we have 1 pink horror or an exotic adversary group. So we don't have exotic adversary groups. I don't own any of those, so 1 pink horror. Pretty good start for us. That's not that bad at all. A lot of these will say like 1 of a certain type of monster per player, so it would be 4 of something, but this just says 1 pink horror, not per player. So the horrors are really cool. I'm going to be saying that word a lot, really cool, because this game has some really cool stuff going on. Here's the pink horror. Now, if I ever painted him, he'd be pink. Pretty freaking cool looking, though. So what the horrors do is they split. So if you kill this pink horror, he ends up splitting into 2 blue horrors. These are what the blue horrors look like. So he ends up splitting into these guys, and then if you ever kill the blue horror, he splits into a brimstone horror, which are these little guys, and these guys are really weak. But basically what happens every time you kill one of these guys, they split down into a different group. It's a really cool concept. So when you place an enemy, you place them as close to the middle of the tile as you can, or the chamber. So this is the middle, one of these 2. So we'll put them right here, for example. So that's where the pink horror is. Alright, so now the Knight Questor continues his turn. He used the 1 from the Destiny die, so he has all 4 dice here to do something with. So he's going to use his 3 to move. And he can move up to 3. So he's just going to charge into this guy. So 1, 2, he's moving right here to take on this pink horror. So when you get an enemy, you look at the back of the guidebook, and as you see here, there's a whole thing for just the horrors. Demons possessed with potent magical powers, horrors can split and split again when slain, their mane becoming more spiteful with every division. So they have, because there's 3 different ones, the pink horrors are the left, the blue are the middle, and the brimstones are the right. So the pink horror can move 5, he has a vigor of 4, so 4 health, and an agility of 3. Here's the actions the horrors can do. Flickering Blade is their melee, blue fire is their missile, pink fire is the area attack. It attacks all enemies in the same chamber. And when a pink horror is slain, replace it with a blue horror, then place another blue horror as close to it as possible. So when it dies, it actually turns into 2 blue horrors. Horrors have 3 values for their characteristics. The first is for pink, second for blue, third for brimstone. So there we go. And everybody, like I said, has a behavior table, and you worry about that when the adversary turn comes up. So the thing important here for us is that this guy has 4 health, 4 vigor. So now, we are going to try to kill this dude. So, what are we going to do? Well, we can use a Thunder Charge Strike, which could do 3 damage if we connect off the bat. So, and it costs us 6 to use it, so let's do that. So we use our 6. It is a 3 or more to hit. So we rolled a 5. So that's straight up. Now the enemies don't have, or the adversaries they're called, I'll probably call them both, they don't get saves. So if you hit them for 3, you hit them for 3. That's all there is to it. So there's some single damage tokens, and there's some damage tokens with 3 on them to help. So this guy takes 3 damage off that first hit. That's pretty awesome. So now we have 2 dice left. So the way the game works is every hero goes, and then the adversary group goes. So this guy's going to get his ass whooped, basically. One guy popped out for us. That's pretty simple way to start. Alright, so then we're going to go with our 4 here. For our Warblade, you only need a 1 or more for this guy to use it. A 3 hits, and he does 2 damage. This guy only has 1 health left. So if he hits, he'll take care of him. So 3 or more, ooh, we rolled a 1, so it's a miss. So he's going to use his 5 to try to take him out again. So 3 or more to hit, and we rolled a 1. So, okay, I was talking too much trash, wasn't I? He missed again, so the Night Questor is pissed. So he's got 1 more Destiny die he can use. It's a 3, so he's going to use it. There's no other dice left. If there was, the next highest one will come down and lock, but this is the last one. And he's going to use this as a 3, so he can use his Warblade 1 or more again. 3 or more hits, rolls a 4. Alright, so he hits him, and that is 4 damage on this guy. So now he dies, the pink horror, and he splits into 2 blue horrors. The first one on the space that he was on, and the second one adjacent to that space. So he basically turns into 2 blue horrors now. And what happens, because the Night Questor killed an enemy, an adversary, he gets 1 renown. And he is our black token. So he goes up to 1 renown here, and like I said before, if this ever goes all the way around, then you'll get 2 skill cards, and you get to pick 1 to keep and discard the other. So his turn is over. So the locked 5 goes back to the top, and that could be used by another character. And next is going to be our Fire Slayer Doom Seeker. What a great name. Our dwarf. So he gets to roll his dice. He gets 2 4s, a 2, and a 1. Alright. So he's here in the front. He's going to use his 1 to move 3 spaces and charge into battle. Then he's going to use his... He can use the 5 from the Destiny pool to do his Doomseeker Axe, which I think he's going to do. Why not? So we're going to take the 5 from the Destiny pool, and we're going to use that for his Doomseeker Axe. 3 or more hits, and he can do D3 damage. So he can do up to 1 to 3 damage if he hits. So 3 or more, rolls a 3. So now we roll a D3, and he gets a 2, so that's only a 1 damage. Not what we were hoping for. Now these blue horrors only have 2 health, so that's still pretty good. So he's going to use his 2. His Runic War Iron is a 1 or more to hit, or 1 or more to use it. A 2 or more hits for 1 damage. So he rolls a 6, so he does another damage. These blue horrors only have 2 health. So this blue horror gets destroyed, and they turn into the brimstone horrors. These little cool dudes. These guys only have 1 health, 1 vigor, and only one of those guys come out. I was kind of curious about if there was always 1 or 2 that came out, but the way it's worded, I think it's just the 1, and it's 2 guys in 1 little group. Because the way it's worded here, when a pink horror is slain, replace it with a blue horror, then place another one as close as possible. So that tells you that you need to have 2 different models. When a blue horror is slain, replace it with a pair of brimstone horrors. Now that could mean 2 brimstone horrors, but I think what that means, because it's worded, I think it would say similar to this, where you place it as close as possible. The pair of brimstone horrors means that, you know, this is a pair of brimstone horrors. There's 2 of them in this for this 1 model. So this guy just pops here. That's how I take it, at least. So, now these guys have 1 health, 1 vigor, and since the Doomseeker killed an enemy, the blue horror, he gets a renown. He's red, but if you kill the brimstones, you don't get a renown. They have 1 health. They can still hurt you, but you just basically just kill them. They're off the board. You don't get experience for that because they're so weak. They only take 1 hit. So the Fire Slayer, I think, is going to... Now you can attack diagonally, move diagonally. So he's going to attack this blue horror here. With his rusty runic warren, 2 or more hits. Rolls a 4, so that's 1 damage. And if he hits with his other one, he'll take him out. He's got a 4 left, 2 or more. He gets a 5. So that takes this blue horror out. He gets replaced with a brimstone as well. Okay. So let's put these guys back over here. And because he killed the blue horror, he gets another renown. So our Fire Slayer Doomseeker has gotten 2 renown already. Pretty good. You need 10 renown to level up. So he's got 2. But he used all the dice and there's none left in the Destiny dice. So we're basically going on to our next character, who is the Excelsior War Priest and his pet Gryph-hound. And not a great roll. A 5, 2 2s, and a 1. Alright, so he is back here, and his Warhound, or Gryph-hound, is here next to him. So for a 1+, you can use his Warhammer. His Light of Sigmar hits the whole area. He's not technically in the area. He's got to get closer. He's got to get on this square, on this tile, or chamber, to use it, because he's still in a different chamber. The area is just for that 1 chamber. He can heal if needed, but we don't need to do that. And he can command his Gryph-hound to do something. I think he's going to try to use his... well, he can't do his Light of Sigmar. He needs a 6, so he can't do that. And well, I think he's going to use his 1 to move. He can move 3 spaces, so he's going to move into this chamber. Now, you can move through your own. Allies can move through allies. Adversaries can move through adversaries. You can't move through an enemy, though. Or an enemy can't move through a hero, for example. And you can't, obviously, he has 3 movement, but you can't, obviously, stop on a square with another miniature. So he's right here. And what he's going to do is use his 2, I think, to command. So you get to pick one of the actions from the Gryph-hound's behavior table and make it immediately. You can only do this once per turn. It costs a 2. So he's going to take this 2 and use the Gryph-hound. So his table shows that he can rest and remove a rule marker from himself. If he doesn't have any, he moves. He can defend, which means he moves towards the enemy that is closest to the War Priest. It then attacks that enemy if it is adjacent. If there are no enemies or the War Priest is not on the board, move them instead. Or he can hunt. Move the Gryph-hound, then attack an adjacent enemy with it. So he's going to hunt. So the Gryph-hound can move 5, so he's very fast. And he has something different from every other character. When the Gryph-hound moves, it could pass through models from either side as it moves. So it can pass through enemies, which is what's really cool about it, is it can get around to the back side of enemies. So you can move 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He can move right there. You can get through everybody. He's going to turn around, and he's going to attack this Brimstone Horror. So when the Griffhound attacks, you roll 2 dice, and every 4 or higher is 1 damage on that enemy. So we're going to roll 2 dice for him. He rolls a 5 and a 1, so he does 1 hit, but these Brimstones only take 1 damage, so he ends up taking them out. So now if the Griffhound would kill an enemy, now the Brimstones don't give you renown or experience points, but if the Griffhound would have killed an enemy who does, the War Priest would get that experience. Even though the Griffhound killed him, it's basically part of himself in a way, so pretty cool. So now we have to worry about the War Priest. What does he want to do? He can't use his Light of Sigmar, his area attack. So I think he's going to just try to get around this guy and take him out. So he can use his 2 to move 3. He can move through his own models. So 1, 2, 3. He's going to move right here behind the Brimstone. And then he's going to use his 5 to use his Warhammer. He needs a 1 or more dice. 3 or more is a hit for 1 damage. So he rolls a 3, which is 1 damage, which is enough to take out this Brimstone Horror. Now this guy does not give experience points, as I said before, but he's off the table, and now all the enemies are gone. Alright, pretty cool. So now what we're going to do is have the Mistweaver go, but there's no enemies left. So we want the Mistweaver to at least get on the same tile here. So he rolls a 5, a 3, and 2 2s. Alright, so the Mistweaver is going to use a 2 to move. He can move 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then, let me actually show the Mistweaver model. It's very cool. He actually sits on kind of like 1 foot. He's kind of off center a little, like he's leaning one way, which bothers me. I don't think I got him exactly the way he should have been. Yeah, but a little bit goofy there. But I don't want to take him off in case I break something. So I'll just have to live with it. But yeah, cool model. So 1, 2, 3, 4. He's sitting there in between the party, and now you can just pass and not use your dice. You just discard whatever dice you didn't use at the end of your turn. So he's going to do that. There's no reason to do anything. I don't want him to explore yet because I want to show off what the Respite is. So he's just going to sit in here. So it is now the adversary's turn, but there are none, right? Because they're all dead. So when you move on to the adversary turn, if there are none left, you can take a Respite. Basically, you can rest. So what you do when you take a Respite, let me make sure I have it correct. I'm pretty sure I know it, but just in case. If there are no adversaries on the board, the heroes can take a Respite. Each player sets up their hero anywhere in the current chamber. So the current chamber is whatever chamber has the most characters on it. So technically, the Mistweaver didn't have to move. Even though he was over here, or she, I think it might be a she, I think it's a she. Even though she was over here, this is technically the current chamber. So it's whatever chamber has the most heroes on it, and if there's a tie, say there's 2 here and 2 there, then it's the most recent chamber that was flipped over, so it'd be this one anyway. But I did move in there anyway. But technically, because it's the current chamber, she would come up here and join the group. So you can place your hero anywhere in the current chamber. So the first player next turn is going to be the Fire Slayer Doomseeker. So we're going to put him here on the end. He'll explore. Then the War Priest is going to go. We'll keep him back a little bit anyway. We'll keep the Griffhound next to him. We'll put our Night Quester up front. And then we'll put our Mistweaver here. Okay. And they're getting prepared for the next chamber. Then each character rolls a die, or then roll a die, and add the number of skill cards that the heroes have between them. If the result is 9 or more, there's an ambush. Now, we don't have any skill cards, and obviously a d6 isn't going to be a 9, so we don't have to worry about that. Otherwise, each player can either rest or heal d3 wounds. Or you can rest to heal d3 wounds, or search the room by rolling a die. On a result of 4 or more, take a treasure card. So, we will try to find treasure. So each hero is going to roll a die. If they roll 4 more, they get a treasure card. So the Night Quest Store gets a 1. No treasure for him. The Doomslayer gets a 2. No treasure for him. The War Priest gets a 3. Wow, these can't find anything. Come on, Mr. Weaver. A 3. Wow. So no treasure for any of our characters. So that would come off the pink treasure cards if they would have gotten a treasure, but not anybody found a treasure. So now one thing that is kind of confusing, and I've seen some threads on it, and people, I don't know if there's a specific answer for this, so if anybody knows, please let me know. It says if there are no adversaries on the board, the heroes can take a respite. Now, I don't know if that means they have to do it or they can choose to do it. Because why that matters is there cannot be 2 in a row. If one would happen, an unexpected event occurs. So I don't know if they can say there's no adversaries. Can you say, I'm not going to take a respite this turn just so we don't get that unexpected event? That means that you can't heal and you can't look for treasure, but nothing bad is going to happen if it's the second one in a row. Or does it have to happen every time there's not an adversary? I don't know the answer to that. There's no facts out yet for this game. But the word they can take a respite makes me think there's a choice. Like, they could decide they're not going to look or heal, and they're not going to look for treasure. They're just going to, if there's no enemies, they're just going to move on. So I think that's how I'm going to do it. They can take a respite. I don't know. I think it would say, like, they're required to or something. It's an iffy thing on my part. I don't really know the answer, so I'm just going to play it the way I think. Which could be wrong, but if somebody knows the answer and they're watching, please let me know to make sure. It's one of the only things I don't know that I think I don't have for sure about this game. I'm sure there's other mistakes I'll make.